Welcome to Naperville Notables. I'm Liz Spencer. Come join me around the table as I talk with Tim and Tom Belgio of Belgio's Catering about their business and their lives here in Naperville. Everybody sees Belgio's out in the community. You are a fixture. You're a welcome face, especially in the morning at the YMCA breakfast. But tell me a little bit about how it all got started. I mean, now you're a very successful catering company, but you started out a little bit differently, a little smaller. How did it all kind of begin? Why food?
Why food? Everyone has to eat.
Yes.
So that's probably the biggest thing, is that we found an industry that we could work in and grow in and provide great service and a solution for people that plan events.
Now, one of you, and I forget, was a wrestler at Naperville North.
Actually, we both were.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I read somewhere that you guys went into food service because you were wrestling and you never got enough to eat.
We never ate during the holidays.
That's right, yeah.
And we come from a big Italian family, so my grandma made awesome food, so we always had to eat it only during non-season.
Right, to keep the weight down for the wrestling.
Yeah,
okay,
right, exactly,
I get it.
yeah,
I'm like thinking, well, because a family of 8, sometimes there's just not,
Right.
so much food to go around for that. So I'm thinking, wow, they went into food service, but here you're trying to keep the weight down for the wrestling match.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, during the season. It would always be during the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. So you'd always have to control what you're eating, and you're always working out. So we always joke that, we went in the food business because we didn't want to run out of food. So, and it's been a great experience.
And you're lifelong Naperville residents?
Yeah, we moved in here, 74, 75.
Yeah, okay.
So we've been here for quite a while.
Attended Naperville North?
Went through 203, so we all went through, elementary, junior high, and high school. So my mom, there was 8 of us in the family, so, we always had somebody at one of the schools. So.
And you two look alike, and I'm sure you often get asked, gee, are you twins? And I know you're not, but tell me there's 8, so give me the rundown. Where do you guys fall in the pack?
There's 4 above and 3 below for me.
Okay, so you're smack dab in the middle.
Yeah.
And I'm the youngest boy.
Okay, you're the youngest boy. So, and is everybody of the Belgio family still in the immediate area?
Naperville, Warrenville, I'm sorry, not Warrenville, Winfield, and Plainfield,
Okay.
and Aurora.
So for the most part,
pretty close, yeah.
Everyone's around.
Everyone's here, so yeah.
Well, that's nice. That's nice. Now, as a large family in this catering business, your sister Terry works for you as well, too?
Yes, correct.
She does.
And where does she fall?
She's the youngest. She's the baby of the family.
Yeah.
She's the baby of the family.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
I kind of joke because with the Worley family, I'm always curious about where everybody falls there too, because they all know what number cousin they are and all this. So with larger families, you often know where you are in the ring. How has family played a role in getting the Belgios started and successful?
Well, from day one, it's nice to have, the siblings to help out. As we were growing and first starting, there was always a lot of input, a lot of help. We've had family help out at, midnight before and working special events. And as we've kind of evolved into where we are today, it took us, the family to help get us there, and the word of mouth, just the people that you can count on, which was nice. They're always saying kind words about us. They have friends that need service, that kind of stuff. So it's been a win-win. And on the other side too, they get to come and enjoy the kitchen here when they're making their holiday cookies or pumpkin bread or whatever the case may be, and it's our mess to clean up. So,
but we get to get some of the product.
Yeah, we do get to keep some of the
payment.
leftovers.
Yeah.
When
There you
they
go.
come in.
And that leads with what you cook. Did you borrow from mom some of the recipes in the family?
Not too much.
Okay.
We created some items that we've liked to make, but majority of our items we created for the majority of the larger groups. So if we like something a certain way, other people would also be able to try them and take it from there. So not as much from the family history side, more of.
We'd sit down with our staff, our chef, our executive chef, Raul, who's been with us since day one. And we'd sit down and talk about what we're looking to accomplish as we're putting our menu together, looking at competitors, what they're doing, and then see where we wanted to fit within that same kind of niche. So when we'd sit down and we'd sample things, we spent a lot of time early on, 2000, 2001, and it's always changing, with
evolving.
the times and the cost of product. And, a lot of our stuff, we're potentially bidding out 6-7 months out. Weddings and that kind of stuff. So you have to be careful with that because now you can go back to the client and say, hey, my chicken's 40 cents more a pound. Can we talk about this? Once we commit, we stand behind it 100%. whether it's something someone's paying for or even something that's in kind, we're going to provide the same service, same quality. We're going to go above and beyond like we always would, whether, it's something like that. So.
Now, you guys kind of got started with a deli experiment right out of school. You just
Right,
you
yeah.
graduated Tom
I
graduated high school.
yeah.
You were already out because you're
Right.
2 years separation.
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
yeah.
hey, it was kind.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. 5 years
Yeah.
separation. So when Tom graduated, and you're the
Youngest boy, yeah.
youngest
So,
boy,
Yeah.
Right.
and then off into your own business at the tender age of
18.
18 and 23.
23.
Yeah,
23,
wow.
yeah.
That's a lot of spunk or spirit or just
It was something.
fearless.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was exciting.
It was,
I mean,
yeah.
we had up until that point, we had been doing certain things within food service. But to back up a little bit, when we started out working at Centennial Beach, working in the concessions and whatnot, so that kind of got us started.
And that
with
was
food
when you were in
service.
high school.
Exactly, yeah, all through high school.
All through high school,
Right, and you
I
didn't-
was there about 7 years. I think Tim was there 15. He didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
Something like that.
13, 13, not
Well,
that,
and,
yeah.
and just so you're working at Centennial Beach, and now, do you guys provide the catering for that now too?
We don't do it now. We did do it for a while.
while, right,
About 9
yeah.
And then
years.
they,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then they had a different philosophy and took it back in house
Yes,
kind of
right,
thing. So.
right, right. So
So with respect to the deli, yeah. So in August of '93, we had taken over a deli that had been in business for a number of years, and it was one of those things where we were just kind of learning the day-to-day stuff. When we acquired it, we kept on one of their main staff members that was doing a lot of the cooking, so that helped us out with some of the recipes that we're actually using today. So it kind of gave us a chance to experiment. But it was one of those things where it was just him and I. So, he'd go out and market and try to drum up business. Meanwhile, I'm still there making sandwiches, and then we're getting busy, and he's still on the street, soliciting people. So then, it's one of those things where you have to walk before you run, and that's what we learned. That was one of the first things we learned, that it's not as easy as simple as just opening the door
and making sandwiches.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we learned a lot, and we kind of use those tools today, which is good.
Right.
You don't always succeed the first time out. So. It was definitely an exciting experience. So
I think that's neat. So you sold the deli and kind of decided to keep in food service, but go a little bit bigger or how did you branch into catering and doing that from a deli?
From the deli side of things, then we got into doing special events. So we
Okay.
were like a vendor at Rib Fest, vendor at Last Fling, and a whole variety of other types of events like that. They opened the racetrack in Joliet. We were a third-party vendor down there. So more of the bigger things, kind of roll the dice, because you pay a booth fee kind of thing each week. You reset up your whole facility each week, and then you try to see what the weather's gonna be like and predict what your products are gonna be and all that. So that was another learning experience as well, good and bad.
Good, yeah, a lot of
and-
risk there.
Yeah.
we don't do that anymore.
Yeah,
But,
controlled
Well,
risk.
that's what youth is for, is taking those risks.
Yeah, 24 hours a day you're working, no problems.
No
As
problem,
you get older.
no responsibilities,
Right.
Yeah.
not a lot of bills, hopefully.
Right,
yeah.
exactly right, yeah. And then we kind of evolved from those things. We worked in restaurants in the area, getting a different experiences from the front of the house to the kitchen side of things, to just the overall operation, managing of them, just from a observation perspective, kind of as a supervisor, crew leader kind of person. And then we kind of evolved back to doing full service on the catering side only. We thought we'd have more time off.
Well, it got to the point where, when you're operating a restaurant, you have to be there 6-7 days a week typically, and you're waiting for people to come to you. And then we saw with the catering, you can get in, you can work an event, you can be done, you get ready to get going for this, the next event kind of thing. So then that's what kind of really appealed to us was that. And when we decided to open here in 2000, it was kind of a no-brainer. I mean, we really were like, we did the restaurant scene, we've done the management side of things. We felt comfortable enough managing staff. We don't cook. We're not real cooks by any means. We've got great staff that do all that. We're more the sales side of things in the front of the house and meeting with people. But
Is that a little bit unusual that, or is it a kind of a 50-50 split in the catering industry where people go into catering or food service because they're foodies, they're chefs, they like to do that, or they come in from a marketing and a sales side?
I think that it's probably more so they're the chefs more so than on the marketing side. That's my belief in it.
yeah, but there's a handful of
Yeah.
caterers I can think of right now that same concept. Some came from food, some came from marketing backgrounds, and they're very successful as well. So,
Right. No, I think it's a
yeah.
plus. I think it's both sides have pluses and minuses. I think often for the foodie that they're a little bit more attached to the food, and that can be great. But if your customer has a definite idea, that could be bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Where when you guys come in, you're more like, well, hey, what do you want? Let's see if we can
we try to
make
provide
it.
the service,
Right,
and,
right.
and
You've
the
got
solution, and
And the solution, yeah.
and
correct.
then you can hire a chef. So
Right.
Exactly, and we still sample everything
Right.
often. I try to cut back a little bit here and there, but we do. So that's always constant because there's other people that are making your food and other venues that you might be at, and you want to be consistent with what was sampled and what the expectations of people are. So that's always ongoing as well. And even some of our vendors switch products on us without telling us. Well, we don't catch it right away, and then all of a sudden it comes up, and we have to find something else or find a different vendor to buy the same kind of product from in order to have that same result. So.
right, because you're cooking on mass quantities. Which is,
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, ideally a party of 100 is great, but we've got stuff going out for 12, some for 50.
but, right, but most people don't. I mean, cooking. Families are a little smaller. I mean, I know, realizing you came from a family of 8, which meant mom and dad 2, and maybe some extended
kids,
families.
yeah.
So you're cooking for 12 most of the time.
Right.
Most of us are cooking for 2 to 4.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so the idea of doubling a recipe would,
What's funny is that when we do have that, our minimum is usually 12. Sometimes we'll do something for smaller, depending on what the need is. But the chef sometimes has a hard time cutting down the recipe.
Right, it's just like
it's either too much salt or too much chicken base. So that's tough because it's easier for him to make food for 150
Oh, right.
than it is for a dozen, kind of thing. So
yeah, a friend of mine is in the food service, and she's always like, "Oh, I can cook for large groups, but please don't ask me to cook for small. I can't do it anymore." So she's always, she's like, you go over for dinner, and she's like, "And I have a little leftovers for all of you," because she's like, "Forget it, I'm just making big. I can't stand the stress anymore." So it's kind of nice.
It's different. Yeah,
People make comments all the time. How do you feed 1,500 people? And we always say it's pretty easy. I mean, really. I mean, the setup and stuff. Obviously, the execution is the difficult part. The coordinating of the delivery times, the setup, getting into a venue. But when we're preparing stuff, it's just as easy to pound 12 pieces of chicken as it is to 150. A little bit more time, but I mean the concept is still there. And when you're weighing out your vegetables, it's 50 pounds versus 4 pounds. So. For us, it's not that big of a deal.
You make it look easy.
Well, and we've been doing this long enough where,
right.
when we're setting, and you've made comments over the years too, where, you see that it seems like we're stress-free. Well, because we try to, anticipate what could go wrong,
Right.
so you're ready, and that helps. It makes you a little bit at ease, and then it's better for the customer when they see, hey, my lifeline, the caterer, he's not stressing.
Right.
So then we're in good shape,
Right,
so.
right. Because we see one another a lot of times at events. That most of the time they're either early morning or late night, and you guys are always very much the same. Happy to see everyone, a smile, and that's just really nice.
Well, and you have to. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how it is. And like I said, we've come accustomed to that. Our staff, same kind of thing. I mean, we try always set ourselves up for success, and then leave room for the error of a vendor was going to bring something that didn't bring it when they said they were going to, so you have to deal with that. But, overall, we can't complain. So.
When we're thinking about foods, you opened in 2000. How has, and I'm sure you had a menu there, but how has food changed in the last 14 years or so? I mean, I think,
Trends have definitely changed.
Yeah.
So like gluten-free and smaller portions and not heavy as much food and a lot less cream foods, I would say.
Yeah.
And people are looking for unique, healthier options, more so today than before.
Yeah, I would agree. And you guys have really, when you started out, you had a certain focus, and now you're growing a little bit more towards a different focus.
Well, I mean, as
Or
we
is you just
first
a thought?
opened, we wanted to be in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And what we've learned over the years is that it's difficult to find certain niches and then also try to still cater to the other niches. So you have to be careful, and that's why you have to be kind of just middle of the road with things and let them know you have the ability to elevate your abilities or downgrade them if need be, meaning going from hot dogs to a picnic kind of event to a sit-down plated meal for a couple hundred.
Right.
So that's kind of what we deal with on a daily basis. The things we've seen change over the years is the portions. People are looking for certain kind of diet restrictions that we hadn't seen early on. But what we typically find with the catering aspect, when people are feeding 50 or 100, they know they're not going to do all gluten-free for everybody. So, we might have a gluten-free menu for 2 or 3 people that's separate from the full buffet, or the plated meal is separate for a certain individual. But those are the kind of trends we've seen. The Atkins stuff we've seen over the years didn't really affect us because you're doing a graduation party, people aren't really thinking about that. Doesn't mean something like that couldn't pop up in the future, and then we would just have to adapt. But
Well, I think people are looking, when they're eating, they want to eat much more what they want rather than what's being served. I mean, I think, we're approximate age, so we were all put into, if mom put down what mom put down in front of you, you ate, and you were quiet about it.
Right,
this is what
right.
you're being fed. Where
Sure,
now,
sure.
I think when we're going out, we're much more picky, and we much more want what we want to eat.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and when we sit down with brides and grooms, and even with Terry, our sister, it's one of those things where we have to remind people that it's important for your day, but you need to make sure when you're feeding the group, everyone's on the same page with the food. You want to make sure it's something that everyone will eat. And if we need to make something special for the bride and groom, we've done that before too. They might have certain dietary restrictions, so on and so forth. But the biggest thing when you're talking about venues, you might love that chicken piccata, but will your entire group love the chicken piccata?
Right, yeah.
What is your audience? Are you feeding kids? We need to tailor a menu to accommodate their needs as well as the adults that are there. So that's always challenging to kind of convey that to the, because you're paying the bill.
Right, yeah.
And what you want is what you want, and that's fine. But it's up to us as caterers to say, hey, listen, this is what we've done in the past. This is what works. This is why it works. We're happy to do it your way, but this is just a recommendation.
Right, right. Well, and I think that's where experience comes in. And I think when people are looking for caterers or that, and I know that when, I've used you as a caterer for my parents' 50th anniversary, I wanted someone to listen to what I wanted, but then I wanted you to come back and say, okay, that's a good idea, Liz, or that's not going to work, Liz, because either way I just wanted it to be successful, but I was going to toss out my ideas first.
Yeah.
So I think you guys, it's just part of the experience a little bit.
And we have customers that bring their own recipes, and we'll mess them with them in the kitchen and try them and have them come back in and sample it, make sure it was just like Mama made, kind of thing. Yeah. And it's funny because sometimes we'll put that on our menu too. But it really comes back to us letting them know, hey, this is what we've done in the past. This is how it works. And if we're not comfortable with something, we're going to let them sample it, make sure we're all on the same page, which is good. It's not just we talk about it and then we show up and do it. It's a complete experience. We want to make sure that what we're talking about is what we're going to deliver to you and what you expect. So.
And is this part of the business philosophy? And was this philosophy kind of with you when you started, or has the philosophy evolved a little bit too?
The solution philosophy is what we strive for all the time. So we're in many different camps, in many different environments. So we try to find out from each individual environment what the customer wants. And when we find out what it is, then we provide them that. And so it does change at every event. Even though it's a wedding versus a wedding, there's still a back outdoor wedding. There's someone in someone's home smaller in a venue that might be available for them to rent. So there's a lot of moving pieces of that we just try to provide that solution no matter what it is.
And was that with you in 2000?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
The service was the first piece. I mean, we just felt like, we can provide a great service as long as we have all the information up front. That's one of the downfalls sometimes is that, when you communicate with somebody and, you think you're on the same page, but then you're not. But overall, that's been our philosophy from day one. And whether it's just our high school and college age kids that work part-time for us or our full-time staff, we're always trying to, embed that into them about the customer service, and things aren't easy sometimes, but you need to have that happen. So that's worked well for us. And people kind of let us know about our staff first, then the food second, which is fine, especially because we're not the food guys, so I'm not as offended as the chef is. But we want to provide the service, and the service is the food. But when someone says, "Gosh, your staff were so great, they went out, above and beyond," that's great. We love to hear that because we can't be everywhere. And it's a win-win.
I don't know. I think I see you guys everywhere. So I know you tell me that, but then I see you, and then we're like waving across the room because. Tell me a little bit about going back to family, the role Dad played.
For me, it was he worked so hard, and he was a huge. I think he showed me that working hard is important. And then other things, good things will happen if you work hard, and you try to do the right things all the time for the right reasons. And then at the end of the day, everything's okay. You've had some hiccups throughout the day, you had some challenges, but at the end of the day, with that philosophy, it works pretty well. And
did he help behind the scenes when you guys first started, kind of just being that go-to guy?
We bounced some things off him, and some, he gave us opinions, and sometimes we do what we were going to do anyway.
Very similar to our customers. That's the important thing.
Yeah, but it was nice to have that sounding board just from a standpoint of just been through so many different things in life that we hadn't experienced at that point. It was nice to have that, good or bad, that advice, right?
Right, yeah.
We were 25 and 31 or 26 and 30, or 25 and 30 when we opened. So we were still pretty young with respect to, business. So, and my dad had been working his entire life, So, but yeah, he had always worked 6-7 days a week. He worked Christmas. So he was always working. So, and early on, even working at Centennial Beach, we were working all the time. And that kind of just evolved, And a lot of that came too from, our wrestling days. Our coaches instilled that in us as well, and we still talk to some of them today. And it's one of those things where it's nice to see you work hard and you accomplish certain things. But for us, it never ends. We're at the point now where we, you can take a little step back, but you don't want to. You're afraid that you might lose a step or two if you do that. So we're still very hands-on. We've got great staff that have been with us a long time, and they've always been great cheerleaders. They've always been right there with us, working hard. But it's just one of those things where it never ends. So
I do remember one thing he said when we looked at this location. He's like, "What are you going to do with all the space?" And like 2.5 years later, he's like, "We need more space." It's kind of funny how
Yeah.
It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, that is right. Yeah, you often think that when you get something, you put that money in off the top, and you're like, oh my God, I'll never use that. And then I'm sure, like most businesses, you're a little bit busting at the seams and piling things up high to get some more room.
Well, the good thing for us, as we've grown over the years, we've kind of grown in other venues. So we've utilized other facilities like North Central College. Some of our other remote sites that we handle, we're able to generate more revenue and bring in part-time staff to handle those kind of venues, but take less pressure off the facility here,
Right.
where the chef can still do his stuff and he can accommodate the needs, but then we can still generate more revenue and help fund everything.
Right, yeah, well, it's all about keeping it all moving and funding. And when you think about those first couple of years in business and you think about where you are now, does that seem like that was just a quick moment, or do you remember thinking in 2000, my gosh, if I got here, I'd be done, and now you're here and you're thinking, I need to go there?
I mean, I remember from 2000 to 2007, and then after that, it's been kind of a blur.
Okay.
It just seemed like we've just been so busy with things. A lot of different things, challenges. I mean, with the economy and food cost and the staffing and just everything, and then just the different things that we've been doing. We've been doing a lot more different kind of events in the last couple of years. So we're always wearing different hats, and the good thing is that they're always different locations, and it's always something different. So it's nice in that sense because it allows you to work as hard as you do. But the time has flown by. I mean, like I said, we've been in business since 2000. It's just.
And like you said about where we're at today, you think you get to a certain point, you'd be
right.
You'd be fine. But then you get there and you're like, well, now wait a minute, all these other things, expenses and other things come up, and so it kind of never ends. So you just kind of
just keep moving up.
Now you need to be at this point in order for it to make sense.
So you reinvent yourself and you reposition, retool, and look for new opportunities. I think that's the next piece.
Yeah, well, and that's the exciting piece, I think, too. That to have a solid base, so now you're at a level where you can do some more interesting things or try new things again. Right. So, but unfortunately, we're all a little bit more aware of the risk now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, now you have kids.
More risk. Yeah.
You're getting up there in age too. And, I'm going to be 40 this week, so
happy birthday!
Thank you. So now you get older, and then you have kids, and now it's like, hey, there's no more playing baseball after 3:30 in the afternoon anymore. You got to work till at least 4. But we can't complain. So.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing. Now, in 2007, you guys had a tremendous honor, and that was being named a Small Business of the Year by the Naperville Area Chamber. Was that a surprise? Was that, because we've all entered it in that, but when you win it, we all enter thinking, gosh, this is a good way to measure where we're at and that. Right. But when you guys were there that evening and they announced, what did it feel like?
It was pretty much really, really exciting. To be even nominated by people in our community, and I look at the other businesses in our community that we try to emulate to be like, and it just was for me, it was like an interesting honor, a great honor, but it was interesting to be in that camp. Of that.
Sure, I completely get it.
It's like an exclusive group, those people that you've looked up to for years, the Ray Kennys in the world, those kind of people where, Dan Casey and all these different people that have been in business and they do so much and they kind of lead by example, and that's kind of how we've done our business is kind of get involved in the community and stuff. But yeah, it was a great experience. It was nice. The family was there. Unfortunately, a few months later is when our dad passed away. So it was nice that he was able to be there and see that and be a part of that. And that's something we'll have until we go. So but it was a cool experience.
Yeah. To me, it's a real affirmation that you're running your business well. Because you went into the food service because you like the service aspect and food. I'm in TV because I like telling stories. But the whole business thing is just a necessary evil.
Sure.
QuickBooks and audits and a necessary evil. Very few of us are going, all right, let's go into business to do an audit. So to be able to have the chamber and your peers say, hey, you are doing this well. Right. I think it is a real affirmation that, hey, I'm doing something well. Now, let's not screw it up.
Exactly. We won it the year after my chef catering did, so that was kind of nice to be able to have them hand that torch to us, if you will. So that was a nice, it was just an overall nice thing to have.
One of the things, when I think about food service, and I think about my days in college where I worked food service at the college and I did some catering, not at all well. But I remember as a young person thinking, gosh, this is, I'm doing this because I need to, pay the bills.
Okay, Bill,
This is-
sure.
And thinking, what am I doing? Not enjoying it. But now I think of it very differently with that word service, that you are a part of somebody's event. So you are, yes, you're providing a service, that you have food here, but it's more of serving as in making sure it goes well, almost to the point of, I don't want to say ministry, but in that idea that there's a spirit, there's a connection, there's a service. I want this to go well for you, and I'm playing my role. Right. That's my newfound philosophy on that. And when I think of you guys, I think that applies a ton.
Well, it's important, and we try to get as much information from, let's say, a wedding as we can from a bride and groom. The floral arrangement, the cakes, the centerpieces, anything that's going to be part of this, because we don't have control of everything.
Right.
But anything that we can take control of, we try to, just for that reason. So we know we can sleep at night knowing that we did everything we said we were going to do. And even if it's just, catching a delivery for a cake that's not even ours, that's what we do. That's part of what we offer. And that's always the challenge, to make sure we get all that information. And what they think they want to have on the table and what really happens should be the same. But we need to make sure we have that communication. And so far, it's been great. I mean, when we sit down with people, when Terry sits down with people, we take the time, we learn what needs to happen. Nowadays, with the technology, we're actually able to take a picture with what they want. So now our staff can look at that, and it's right there in front of them. So it's a good thing.
And their expectations that they set for us at that first initial consultation and throughout the process is important for us to share with everybody and make sure that we really understand their vision for their event. And then,
well, and you're playing such an important role. I mean, a wedding is the beginning of so many things. So you get to be a part of that, which is exciting and nerve-wracking all at the same time, I would imagine.
Well, I mean, for us, we love it. I mean, we love the challenge. The staff we have are great. So when we get to a venue and we start setting it up, and that's where it begins. It's almost like we're painting a picture, and we go from A through Z and set everything up, and make sure everything goes off without a hitch, and the bride and groom get their food when they need to. We're cutting the cake when we're supposed to. All these kind of things that come into play. But for the most part, you kind of it's just on autopilot. I mean, whether it's us on site, one of the other staff on site, or with our servers, it's one of those situations where they all are on the same page. They know what the end result needs to be, and when they do it. So.
And I think a great success of a wedding and event that we do is that they refer us to their friends, and they call us, say, you did so-and-so's wedding, or they have a baby, and then we do the baby shower, and that whole next phase of their life we're still part of. So that's kind of a really nice feature benefit for us, I think, when that actually.
Well, and you guys are probably hitting the time period where you're seeing where marriage, a baby shower and maybe a graduation now, as you are becoming part of a person's family.
Right.
Yeah, as that's evolved too. I mean, it's funny because once you meet somebody and you do a great job for them, and they're really happy with your service, and they know you have the ability to do just about anything, as their needs come, or friends or family, so we're constantly seeing the same people at events and stuff, which is nice because you do feel like you're part of the family, and it's nice because they know that the person that's coming they can trust. They're going to show up on time. They're going to bring everything. So that's been one of our good things to have happen. So
now you had mentioned that in the last couple of years, pricing and recession has really changed and changed how you kind of look at things. So how did you manage to weather that? I mean, all of us, felt it and took some deep breath and started running like heck. I don't know about you guys, but that was my philosophy. Let's just go. Anything that came in the door was, fair game.
Well, we found that we were taking parties for 8 people as opposed to 12 or 15. We were saying yes a little bit more. We were trying to be aware of what we were donating. We do get involved with a lot in the community, and that is costly. But it's a win-win, we feel, for us on a couple levels. But you have to be careful with that because I can't donate something I don't have. But we opened up in 2000, so we saw September 11th, and we saw a recession, a couple times till now.
You're right.
So, and we saw what that did with the corporate scene. So we really didn't aggressively go after corporate business because we didn't want to all of a sudden have 40% of our sales, drop with the economy. So we found, kind of diversifying ourselves a little bit with what we were doing has worked. But food costs is going through the roof, and that's just there's nothing you can do about it other than make sure you're still providing the same quality products and you're pricing accordingly and whatnot. But it's challenging, it really is.
And then we actually reevaluated our business model or plan where we were doing business at and why, and kind of maybe walked away from some business because it wasn't as profitable as it used to be, or that that when things are better, you don't necessarily, it kind of gets overshadowed. As things are getting tighter, then those things kind of percolate to the top.
Right.
So reevaluating where we
become
were.
a little bit more efficient, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
by design, both on the staffing side, on the costs of pretty much anything you do as an expense. You just try to understand more of that, probably more so for me than we ever had to do in the past.
Yeah, a little bit, and that's where that experience or that growing of the business comes in. I mean, it's exactly what all of us did on that.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm a grown-up now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's reality.
Yeah, it's reality.
Yeah.
Right.
And let's talk a little bit about your community engagement. I mean, you guys are everywhere, and you're also always there to lend a hand, and have been involved with so many people, whether it be VFW and the Fish Fries and the YMCA, Rib Fest, NEF 203, just my personal favorite, the Turkey Trot and the 5Ks. There's nothing like making sure there's a bottle of water when I come across and a banana. I appreciate, yes. But why? How do you do that? And then why do you do it?
I think the why we do that would be, as a business owner in our community, we can help so many causes, and we have the ability because we're fortunate to be in our community that we've been successful. So giving back and getting involved, and when we evaluated how to give back and where to get involved, it started small, and then the floodgates opened, shall we say?
Right. Well,
There's
people
so
here
many great causes.
Right. Well, and there's over 300 not-for-profits, and we all talk.
Right,
So
yes.
we're like, hey, Belgio's, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
Thank
thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We all talk. Yeah.
So with the process of doing it, it's really the right thing to do, and it's that simple. I mean, when you're in a community and we grew up here, we love this community. We didn't, it just is the right thing to do completely. And then what we tried to figure out is where to be and why. So then we
Right.
tried to figure out from a marketing perspective, from a philosophy, and then we kind of honed in and looked at some of those kind of environments. And then, like I said, the floodgates open, and then we didn't have to look anymore. People sought us out, or not-for-profits, sought
You're right,
us out,
sure.
et cetera. And I think
But it's been a win-win. I mean, whether it's Rib Fest, Last Fling, the Turkey Trot, the 360 run. I mean,
Right.
they're all great causes. And for us, it started out as exposure for the catering business as well. People can see our product, they can sample our products. But it kind of evolved into this, other category within.
Yeah.
But they're all great causes, and we're going to continue to do as much as we can as time kind of goes on. So.
And we do some gift certificates, so we can give people an opportunity to have a nice auction item for their event, and then that customer now sees what we can do in certain areas. So we
Right.
we'll do a nice all the rentals are floral, their staffing, desserts, so they can actually get a better feel than just a bottle of water or a banana at an event.
Right.
So we tried to hone in, as we talked about changing our model a little bit, and really trying to figure out if we're going to donate something, how do we get the win-win that we're looking for? And that's kind of what we've kind of gravitated to a little bit, is giving a nice auction item that someone can have for their fundraising part of their event, and then we get the benefit of that. Their guests see what we can do for them.
Right. No, I think that's very smart. That it gives a chance to sample and try
Right.
at a very generous reduced amount for that. So you guys are very generous with that. I've been at events when that's been an auction item, and I'm like, wow, that's a great that's a great thing. I got to think if I got something coming up.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about food does so much. It opens conversation. It brings families together. What is it about food that makes it so universal for us?
Well, I mean, like you said, I mean, it's a talking point. I mean, you can celebrate with any kind of food for the most part. Whether it's your picnic, whether it's the holidays, whether it's graduation, it's always surrounded by some type of food, whether it's appetizers, an entree, or even dessert. So for us, it was a perfect fit to do those kind of things, because it just made sense to always be around family, and we just kind of saw how we grew up with things. But it's a win. It's a win-win for people to have this, have these celebrations and whatnot, and they can enjoy some good food, some good times, and especially with family and friends and whatnot. So.
There's something to be said about everybody gathers in the kitchen around the food, and I'm thinking of the table that we're sitting at now. That lots of times we see you at breakfasts and that, and you've really grown your business from whether it be something like a picnic lunch to now something more formal and part of that bigger gathering. Tell me about where you want to go in the future with this business.
Well, I mean, initially we thought people would just understand that we can do just about anything. We're a catering company. But over time we realized people just assume certain niches. So for us, we've spent the last couple of years trying to turn that corner and letting people know that we can still do the hot dogs, the hamburgers, the picnic menu, the boxed lunches. But now, we still have the ability to do the plated meals, for a couple hundred people, whether we find the venue or you find the venue. So we're really trying to turn that corner with what we have to offer. It's same grade food. They come in and sample stuff. We come to you and sample things to them. But it's one of those kind of things where, it takes time to make those changes and let people understand that, you did a great job for that breakfast for the 300 people, but we didn't even get the phone call for the nice plated meal for, 300 people 2 months later. People just don't assume, and it's up to us to kind of re-educate and let them know we have the abilities, give us a chance. You've already tried our service, or you've already tried our product. So that's been the toughest challenge. And competition, there's so much stuff out there. So, if you're only doing a party once or twice a year, we get one of them, well, that's great. I'd love to have both of them, but so that's tough too, because as things have tightened up on the families' wallets and whatnot, you're not seeing as much of those kind of things, and that's why opening up, doing some more of the formal stuff, people are still getting married. So those are the kind of things that we're seeing these days.
And what we hear a lot of times from our clients is that they use this for their breakfast or for the picnic or whatever, and then they use somebody else for something else, a different event, not knowing that we did it, even though we think that we tried to tell them, hey, we're your solution.
Right.
So no matter what you like, and if we're not comfortable doing something after sampling, we'll tell you collectively, and we'll give you some recommendations. We'll help you find the right fit for you. But for us, it's more of the solution, and that's what's been challenging for me to get through. Saying, what if we do such a great job for you? Why would you go elsewhere? And people have gone elsewhere, and then nicely they came back because they said, okay, let's. I don't want that hassle anymore. Let's work with someone that's trusted and proven for me as a company. So that solution is what the biggest thing we want to get out to our clients is that we're it. I mean, we could be anything that you would need, and if we couldn't, we would definitely inform you of that.
Well, and I think it's always tough to. This is a growth point for you. So now you've hit, and now you're up here. So now you're pushing up. And, they say it gets a little harder as you go. It gets up there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
How do you balance life and work? I mean, if I looked at your calendar, if I looked at a year calendar, I would bet there's something that you guys are doing some type of event on every day of the year.
Sure.
And
it gets tough. I mean, I think this summer, him and I, we took off about 7 days the entire summer. Summer's unique where it's just there's so much stuff going on, and we're still very hands-on, so that's tough. But we have families too now, so it's not as easy as just hopping in the car and coming to work. You have obligations. I know I've done a better job this last year of trying to kind of turn corners with letting staff do certain things, piggyback. We both don't need to be here, so if he's going to hang out in the morning, I'll hang out in the afternoon, kind of thing with the family. But it's challenging sometimes, but we look forward to it. I know that we get excited come April, and we go pretty strong through September, October, and it's exciting. I mean, you built this, and now you see it working, and so that's why it kind of keeps you energized. But the balance is tough, especially when you factor in the donations that you're doing. You're like you mentioned, you're up at 4 a.m. at some of the races, but then you're also doing a plated meal in the evening at the Donata House. So I mean those kind of things. And you still want to try to be everywhere for at least a little while. So, it's interesting
for the visibility and the marketing side, and that's why we're doing those. They're great events. That's why we do them, to get visible experience and be seen. So if we're not seen, then it kind of maybe gets diluted, even though they're still great events, and we could.
Right. Oh, you have to be seen. That's lesson number one in Naperville. You have to be seen.
And the same thing about the balancing. That's I just had a baby a couple years ago, so now it's getting that way. So the nice thing is she'll come to some of the events that we're doing outdoors. So you get 10, 15 minutes to hang, and then you go back to work kind of thing. So at least you can kind of bridge those two worlds when it's appropriate.
Right, because much like television, catering and food service, it's a lifestyle. I mean, television's a lifestyle, and this is a lifestyle. You're not 9 to 5.
Definitely.
Right. Yeah. You're more like 4 to 7, and then maybe again 4 to 7 a.m. And maybe you have a lunch window, and then you're down here for the dinner. So you've got pockets of time. But
and the nice thing is it changes all the time.
Right.
That's the good and the bad. Is that it changes all the time. Yeah.
But we manage. I mean, it's one of those things where, and so do the staff. I mean, they're doing it right there with us.
Right.
So,
right.
And we've done a better job this last year of really trying to manage that. Hey, we don't need 6 guys in at 5 in the morning. Like, let's bring 3 in and stagger them, and then those guys can leave early. So, we don't all have to have a 16-hour day or a 15-hour day. So,
but I think that's a little bit learning. And letting go a little bit of not wanting to be there all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for me, I like to be there all the time.
Sure.
And I can't. I have to trust my staff, and they do
Yeah.
a wonderful job. And it's not that I don't trust them. I want the experience with
Well, you
them.
want to be a part of it.
Right, exactly.
And that's the same thing
Yeah.
for us. I mean,
Yeah.
now, I mean, we can sleep in a little bit, not have to get up and make the breakfast burritos, but
Come on.
yeah. But, it's give and take, right? But we've done a lot better job in this last year of really just the mindset. I mean, they don't need to all be here all the time, and we can make it work, and we're going to be just as efficient, and things are going to be, spot on, with respect to the product and the delivery and whatnot. So, but it's just, but it's never ending. So,
When you think back in these last 14 years or so, are there any special moments or funny moments that you can share?
Well, I mean, for sure, this winning the Small Business of the Year was a special moment. And like I said, with our dad being here, the first, 7 years of being in business, my dad was here for 5 or 6 years of that. He retired in 2001 from driving a limo. So he had been with us just about every day. It's funny, we'd always tell the guys, just don't take my dad with you. He can stay here and work in the kitchen with us and hang out. And he's like, Tim, he's in the front seat already of the van. I mean, so
he's going.
So he's ready to go because he drove a limo for 20 years. So he's like, we don't need MapQuest, we don't need the phone,
I'm just going to get you there by memory.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Until he says, "Hey, who moved the road?" But,
We'll go there.
he was getting older, so
Yeah.
But so those are some of the early on experiences. And now, for me, I've got a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. So they come to work once in a while and hang out, and that's some different kind of experience and memories. And just the wonderful events we do. I mean, getting recognized from the Exchange Club for things that we do, or see they donate X amount of dollars each year to causes, we feel that we're part of that. And that's those are the kind of things that kind of really drive the situation. And it's a win-win for everyone across the board. So,
Tim, anything funny that you can share?
I was going
I was going to say that you can
about it,
share.
yeah.
I'm sure there are plenty of funny moments, like we have funny moments at NCTV,
Well, I mean,
but we don't necessarily want to share all
Well,
those.
funny things like you're really busy and you're trying to be at 5 places at the same time, and you load things in a vehicle, and then the wrong vehicle goes to the wrong place. I mean, that's funny afterwards, but not when it's happening.
Oh, right. We have lots of moments like that.
But the nice thing is the customer doesn't experience that because we had enough time to kind of
figure out
facilitate that.
maneuver a little bit.
And we've actually put in some great tools to manage that because of those hiccups. So those are some kind of fun. Sometimes we're like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes when we've got 5 events, it's like, sometimes that autopilot maybe, I always, I'm in autopilot, and the minute I start to think about it is when I blow it. It's like, oh my God, just trust yourself, Liz. Keep going. Keep going.
So same kind of thing, just different industry.
Right. And so as you think of the big family of 8 in that, and Terry plays a role, how do they look at you now? How does, as they think about when you started and now? Where's the family?
I think that they appreciate what you've done. They recognize the accomplishments and whatnot, and they realize that we're still very hands-on, and we miss a lot of family functions because of this, and that does get old sometimes, but that's just how it is. But they still, the staff interacts with our family too, so it's kind of funny. It's all one big family. They all have keys. They always come in and help themselves to stuff. So my mom still calls and says, "Hey, can I have some ice?" But she's probably the only one that does call. But,
She definitely is, yeah.
But anyways, so it's one of those things where they're proud of us, and we appreciate all they've done for us over the years. I mean, they've talked us up tons of people, and they're in their environment they're in, and we've gotten business because of that. So we're grateful for that as well. So
how's it working together, you guys?
we know our limitations. You
can kind of give one another the hand, and that's
we know when to step back, and we know when to take the lead, and there's give and take, just like with anything else. It's tougher because you're family, because you're always on. But I let Tim.
I think so. No, I think that's exactly right. I mean, kind of where we've done it for a long time, and seeing where kind of where each of it wants to be and what's important, and keeping the same message to our clients. I mean, that kind of all works together.
Yeah. We both have different strong points.
Yeah. And has this been a natural? I mean, you jumped in together, right after high school, pretty young. Has this been just a natural thing throughout your growing up, that you were a little bit more, together than you got 6 other siblings?
Well, I think that for me, when we worked together at the beach, so I worked there, then he came to work there. We did a lot of things together, and we did a lot of things similarly. So we had a lot of those kind of instilled kind of philosophies from the beginning, and then it was just natural. It's like, well, if you're going to go into battle, who are you taking with you? Someone you can trust, someone you can depend on. So that's kind of the process, at least for me.
Yeah, same kind of. And even just with the wrestling days and just the experience, overall, both in the food service kind of mindset and whatnot. It's been a win-win.
So as you guys look, and you've kind of told us where you want Belgio's to go, but when you really look down the line a little bit, is this something that you want to see continue and think that maybe your children will continue that family business? Does your 10 and 8-year-old realize that they're going to be serving some plates come 14, 15?
What's funny is I talk about my daughter's the one that says she wants to work for Belgio's Catering someday. My son just assumes that money grows on trees. And, he's part of that mindset. He's focused on the PlayStation. But you would hope. But then you see the challenges in other family businesses. There's a lot of work and there's a lot of expectations, and so sometimes that's a lot of pressure to put on your kids. But it's one of those things where you kind of give them the tools, and if they're interested, then you have that conversation, and then if not, then you kind of go from there. And probably the same thing for Tim.
Same kind of thing, yeah. So give them, definitely instill values about work ethics and doing the right thing for the right reasons, and those kind of life lessons. Hopefully, they can learn through this, and then they could choose what they want to do after that.
Well, there's certainly some strong family businesses in Naperville that are second, third, fourth generation. So, and date back to the late 1800s, early 20th century. So it's nice to see a family business like Belgio's begin in 2000, and then we can just 30 years from now take a look back maybe at the 50 and say, hey, Belgio's a strong family business. Thanks for taking time to chat with me today,
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.